You have just stepped into the Midlife Revolution, your space to ignite possibility, redefine purpose, and embrace the power that comes with age. Co-hosted by yours truly, Coach Wayne.
And I'm Coach Stacy M. Lewis, and we're two seasoned coaches focused on the midlife community of color. This isn't just a podcast, it's a movement. In a world that sometimes forgets the power and the wisdom that comes with age, we're here to ignite a revolution and rewrite the narrative of this incredible journey.
So, whether you're navigating career shifts, rediscovering passions, or challenging the status quo, this is your space. So buckle up. Let's dive into the Midlife Revolution. Hey, this day had to come. You are seeing this on Tuesday, the 23rd of April, and this is a pre-recorded version of Midlife Revolution. Stacy had to bounce, but Stacy is celebrating a birthday all week long. So happy birthday, Stacy. Enjoy your trip, and we'll do this as soon as you come back. Bring some cake along with you to share.
Yes.
Stacy, hope you're having a great time, and you're watching this wherever you are. Not on your birthday, but you can catch the replay. Again, folks, listen, this is Midlife Revolution. I am Coach Wayne. I help men of color just like you get through the midlife journey and come out on the other side smelling sweeter, bigger, better, and bolder. I do this as a full-time gig helping brothers get to the next level. And today, in the green room, we have Stacy. And Stacy, welcome.
Well, thank you for that welcome. Thank you for those of you in our viewing and listening lounge. I am so sorry that we are not live today, but we are still excited to be here to share some nuggets to empower, enrich our midlife community. I'm Stacy M. Lewis. I serve as a nonprofit executive as well as a coach. My focus is midlife women of color who are really looking to pursue their passions and their dreams, those that they put on the side to make some other stuff happen, those that are looking to magnify their worth, and those that are looking to play their biggest game in this season of life. So I'm always excited to be here with Coach Wayne, my co-host, and I'm just excited to be here to share and offer anything that we have that will help our community grow and thrive. So, Coach Wayne, what are we talking about today?
I love it. Well, outside of your birthday, and please, I lived in Aruba for a little while. And Stacy, when I was in Aruba, I found out that the Arubans, as a part of their celebration, the person who was being celebrated brought the gifts. So you bring the gift. If you know what I mean, Stacy.
I bring the gift. I'm bringing it today.
Today, we want to talk about how we transform our careers by developing emotional intelligence for the workplace, right? So midlifers, Stacy, typically go through these psychological gymnastics because they're beginning to think that they're dispensable. And sometimes we get worried about how we improve and strengthen our position as we launch into the second half of our life. And so emotional intelligence is something that we are going to talk about that helps to move through. The research supports it.
Yes. And I think that, this is a great time to talk about emotional intelligence. We like to believe that as we have aged and saged, as you say, that our emotional intelligence is at 192. Yet the reality is that we can always use a little refresher to be reminded of the value of our emotional intelligence, and how we can just pay attention to even feeding that and nurturing that in a way that helps us grow and successfully transition our career or manage other aspects of our life. So I think it's an excellent topic for today.
Yeah. It has showed up too through the research that folks who are considered high in emotional intelligence have a better record in terms of their job performance, and
Mm.
employees across the board are just more productive. Greater relationships happen as well when folks are charged with high levels of emotional intelligence. And the definition, by the way, of emotional intelligence is, it's when you understand that emotions of yourself and of others, so that you can control emotions and separate it, as it were, which is to say, you don't get stuck in your feelings.
That's one way to say it, Wayne, right? We say often in our community, like, no, I was in my feelings. And it's good to be able to acknowledge that when you are in your feelings. At the same time, that helps us control or manage our feelings, our emotions, in ways that are to our benefit. And so that's what we're talking about here today, right? Being able to manage when you're in your feelings and how that is serving you or not serving you, as you look at yourself in the mirror and as you look at your career growth and your life's growth.
Yeah, yeah. Stacy, there are four categories. I'm going to list them and then I'll get back and we can take
Okay.
them one at a time. But the four for our listening audience and viewing audience are self management, then there is self awareness, there is social awareness, and there is relationship management. Those constitute what we call EI for short, emotional intelligence. And Stacy, why don't we start with self management?
Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. Self management. I think that it's almost self explanatory that you are able to not only think clearly when you are stressed or anxious or angry, but that you're able to manage how your feelings show up in that given situation. So that self management of your emotions, in the moment, is what we're talking about when we say self management.
Yeah. So it's really about understanding what triggers us. It's understanding how we can navigate our feelings and separate ourselves from them, so to speak, so that we operate with a clearer head and a clearer mind, and we don't, explode and become victims of our own anger and frustration, that sort of
Right.
thing, Stacy.
Right. I think it's so it's not only managing the emotions, but also managing the behavior that also is associated with those emotions. You use the emotion of anger, and making sure that even in those situations, in particular on the job or in our businesses, when anger is welling up, that we are managing that in a way that it doesn't become behavior that is expressing our anger. So the self management is critical, for our emotional intelligence and the growth of our emotional intelligence.
Yeah. The next one, Stacy, self awareness. I usually start off with, after my discovery call, with giving an assessment, and the assessment is really to raise the level of self awareness. Right?
Hmm. Hmm.
With corporations, I oftentimes use Strength Finder,
Hmm.
and I use others, 16 personalities and that sort of thing, to help people to get a sense of their uniqueness in terms of their strengths and their personalities. So self-awareness is key in terms of emotional intelligence, because it gives you an opportunity to reflect and to look at how you come across from the eyes of other people by identifying and owning your reality, right? And I think that's so important that we have that sense of self-awareness, Stacy.
Yes, yes. I love that you are already dropping tools that our audience can dig into. So whether it's strength finders, doing your personal SWOT analysis for those of you that maybe need to catch the replay of swatting your way to success. Wayne and I talked about doing your own personal SWOT analysis and really being aware of how you show up. I love Strength Finders because it makes you more aware of your strengths and how those strengths themselves even have some pitfalls. So something can be a strength, like your ability to communicate, yet you might have a tendency to over communicate, and how that fits in, to how that then strength becomes a pitfall in some ways. And being aware of that is really important and really empowering to how you're showing up, right? So being self-aware really helps how you show up, knowing your strengths, your weaknesses, your triggers, etc. when thinking about emotional intelligence.
And Stacey, I like to tell brothers, stop the stinking thinking. And to be able to
Mm,
do that, we have to be aware, self-awareness, key to part of growing and succeeding along the way. The other
yes.
piece is social awareness. And social awareness is a big one. A lot of times, Black men in corporate show up in the room and we are the only ones. And I'm pretty sure it happens too with our ladies, our counterparts. We show up in the room, and part of the ability to read the room, social awareness, just to know sometimes what the hidden languages are, the culture in the space that you are occupying, so that you know how to show up and show up good and stand up and
Mhm.
represent. I like to say, Stacy, to be the ambassador, represent the brothers for the men that I work with is a part of social awareness.
Yeah, what I like is that the self-awareness couples with the social awareness. So how you are showing up also impacts that social experience. And so being aware, reading the room, as you say, coupled with how you're showing up is really critical. And being able to identify that in that moment, without judgment, helps you then make the necessary tweak even in that moment, with like, oh wait, as I read the room, yes, there have been many times that I've shown up into a meeting, into a conference setting, a board situation where I was the only woman or I was the only woman of color. And, knowing who I am, being self-aware, and then being able to read the room allowed me to say, oh, okay, I need to make sure I'm standing up. So, standing up a little taller so that the room then experiences me in a way that is resonant with how I believe I'm showing up. And so
Absolutely.
I love the way the two work together.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks for drawing that congruence right there. And Stacy, I hear your little doggy in the background. Is everything all right back there?
Well, if everything's not all right, trust and believe that Bernardo will make it right. So he's probably back there in the backyard giving some other dogs heck on a hockey stick. I'm telling you, that
Oh, I
dog. I
love it.
believe him.
Number 4, Stacy, is relationship awareness. And why is that important? Well, when you have that as a part of your uh, acute level of emotional intelligence, you are able to deal with things like conflict resolution at a higher
Mhm.
level. You're able to navigate the behaviors of others. And it's not the same as the social awareness, but it's also tied in. It's knowing how you can measure someone's their strengths even and
Mhm.
play to it, right?
Yes, I totally agree. And the thing about relationship management, again, it is in great part being aware of who you are, even in that very moment in the relationship, in the conversation, and then being able to manage your emotional intelligence in a way that meets the conversation where it is, that meets the relationship where it is, not where you expect it to be, not where it was, but where it is. And I don't know about you, Wayne, but I can think of conversations and relationships where in my mind, my emotions were saying, run, run like the wind. But I could not because it was in that type of situation. But certainly that's when the emotional intelligence kicks in and says, fix your face, don't run, but don't dive deep into the relationship in a way that doesn't allow you to run when necessary. So I love that relationship management and awareness is part of this conversation.
Yeah. And what we're talking about really is a level of maturity and discipline, right? Because when you control your emotions and not have it lead you, it shows the level, hey, it shows that you have earned your stripes as a midlifer.
Yeah, I just thought about this one minister, pastor on this one woman. Her name is Joyce Myers, and she would always say, folks tend to show up and how do you feel today? Oh, I feel tired, or I feel angry. I feel, and she's, and she always says, you don't live by how you feel, which I think is at the crux of emotional intelligence. Like we said earlier, you can be in your feelings if you want, but if we are really looking at self-awareness and emotional intelligence as a tool to help us propel forward, we need to have that in check, that we do not live by how we feel. And as seasoned people, we want to be able to manage or be intelligent about our emotions, our feelings in ways that are to advantage.
Thank you, Stacy. Here's the part of it that folks need to get their pen and paper or their pads out or their phones and the keypads out because we're
That's
about to
right.
share as coaches some steps that you can take so that you can build your emotional intelligence and help to leverage your career. Number one, Stace, you want to jump off with number one?
I'm happy to jump off with number one. Let's go with something we talked about already.
Okay.
Learn to read the room. Now, these are some free tips, y'all. Let's pay attention. Read the room. Don't just walk in there without really being acutely aware to how you feel about you and about how folks are responding to you and your presence. Read the room. What do you have to
Yeah.
say about read the room?
Yeah. Look at how people use space, body language, nonverbal
Mm,
communication. There are some unwritten rules depending on what group you're in or with or around, and organizational culture. Learn to read the room.
learn to
Shall
read
I
the
jump
room.
on to number two, Stacy?
Go for it, Wayne.
How about practicing self awareness?
Mm,
And one of the ways that I help my clients to do that is by doing journaling, Stacy,
mm.
and looking at through journaling their habits, their practices, and patterns.
Yeah, I love this, and I'll admit that shocking as it may be, I'm not much of a journaler. I always want to be. I am not much of a journaler. But we all have the resources, easy resources. We can pick up our devices and talk into them using voice notes about how we're feeling in the moment, about what we're experiencing, and how we believe we're showing up or how we believe the experience is impacting us, and really just talking it out sometime helps us feel better already. So whether you journal paper and pen or you journal in your phone, there's ways to get that stuff out.
Absolutely. And we get a chance to reflect on the feedback and what we
Mhm.
have down there. And a lot of times when we reflect like that, we learn to not take things personal. So number 3, Stace, you want to do that?
I would love to do that because it's in harmony with what you just said. And that is, even when we are somehow criticizing ourselves or critiquing ourselves through our journals, we want to receive that criticism with grace. So, receiving criticism with grace is not only applicable to how we talk to ourselves, but what a colleague, a trusted voice, might say to us as feedback, and how we take that, apply that, and almost depersonalize it in a way that it feeds us instead of hurts us. That's that emotion, right? That responds with wanting to defend or responds with being hurt. If that person is really coming from a place of authenticity in giving you the criticism or the critique.
And they're all connected, because the one that I want to talk about now or introduce is listen actively to others, right? Active listening. Sometimes we listen just to compare, to
Mm.
critique, to get the next word in. But we want to be sensitive and practice and develop active listening.
Yeah, I really love that because so often, and everyone that is really focused on communication styles and active listening knows that your role is to actively listen, not be prepared with your response before the person is finished talking, but to really listen and then respond with your emotions in check, in a way that makes sense and is really going to foster a positive experience.
Here's a big one: see conflicts, as it were, and differences of opinion and others as an opportunity to learn more and to understand the other person's POV, point of view.
Mm,
How often have we been in a situation where there's a buildup of tension because we allow our feelings to get ahead of us because somebody says something that we disagreed with, or that, subjectively said they don't agree with where we're going.
right.
And we got to learn how to see that as an opportunity to learn more about that person's style or culture or way of being, so that we can engage and have a calmer, cooler interaction.
Absolutely. I love it to learn more about them and about yourself. Some conflicts, the best response is silence. But silence requires you to be in control of your emotions. And so when we have these conflicting conversations, it is not necessarily who can out argue the other or who can out POV, point of view, the other, but really how much can I learn about you and how you think and how you communicate and really what you mean when you're saying the things you're saying versus assuming, taking at face value or ear value what it is you're saying without really digging deep and taking that time to learn and understand.
And here's the 7th one, maybe the last one we'll share. And if folk want to hear more about these and get deeper, they will see how to contact us so that we can
Absolutely.
work together and share with you these strategies. But number 7 for us would be work to people's strengths, right? We talked about strength finders before. We
Mhm.
all have our uniqueness, our strengths, and our limitations. But emotional intelligence, especially if you're a leader, and we are all leaders, right? Even if we're
Yeah.
not assigned by a title.
Yes.
And so, as a leader of yourself and others, it's important to kind of resonate and to find where people lay as far as their strengths so that they can perform at their best and present to you their best self.
You know, we hear folks say, I was in my stride, or I'm, operating in my genius. And I can feel that it excites me, etc. And it's the same for everyone else. So knowing when they're in their stride or their genius, working in their strengths, understanding their strengths, knowing that really fosters a relationship and an experience that is much more positive than setting expectations that are out of alignment with an individual's strengths. And so I think it's an excellent tip, and one that helps us all as we think about emotional intelligence. And knowing our own strength, that self-awareness, as well as recognizing other strengths and working within those strengths.
Yep. So, Stacy, we're giving it to the folk. And hopefully, if you're a midlifer, worried a little bit about how solid you are, have no fear. There are things that you can do at the emotional intelligence level to kind of bolster yourself up so that you can level up and feel a little bit more secure and fit in place, Stacy.
Yeah, I think it's so important that we have these conversations, because there are times that we feel like we've arrived, and I'm good at this, I'm great at this, and we forget about some of the simplest but most complex and profound things, like emotional intelligence. So I'm so glad that we had this conversation today. Our hope, of course, is that it has been advantageous and really added some value to those that listen and watch us, catching this replay. Our hope is that it really fed you in a way that gives you food for thought. And certainly, Wayne and I are always available for connecting conversations, discovery calls, because our goal is to see you grow, to watch others around us thrive and succeed. So I'm cheering you on, like I always say.
Absolutely. So we're about to call it a day or a
All
morning.
right.
And, we'll do this again next week, same time. We'll be live next week on
Yes,
the channel
indeed.
that you're watching right now. So, Stacy, I'm going to take us out. And remember, folk, please stay on if you want to see our handles, the way to contact Coach Wayne and Coach Stacy, as we are here to take you to the next level to make your better half your next half.
Mm-hmm.
And there you have it, folks. This week's episode of the Midlife Revolution. Hey, we truly appreciate you spending this time in this space with us. Join us next week at the same time as we dive into relevant topics and present solutions to spark new thinking and empower your midlife journey.
Don't forget, if today's episode resonated with you, share your thoughts and suggest topics in the comments. And of course, remember to subscribe, share, like, and hit that notification bell. You are the Midlife Revolution. I'm Coach Stacy, and I'm cheering you on.
And I'm Coach Wayne, and I'll see you at the top.